Robert Weiner joins us. Bob is with the Robert Weiner Associates, Democratic strategist, former Clinton White House spokesman. He thinks the president is going to come roaring back. Robert Weiner, thanks for joining us here in Philadelphia. I'm Steve Martorano. That's Rich Zioli.
Yeah, Steve and Rich, thank you. He has to. The parodies were obvious after he bombed in the first debate. Saturday Night Live, Obama mewed against Romney's assertions and then becoming the Eastwood empty chair. It was a disaster. You know, Rich and Steve, I stayed, coincidentally, at the Westin Lake Las Vegas, where the president was also looking out at the lakes and the mountains, and the hotel security chief told me they got him too relaxed. I thought that was a pretty funny. And then the bellman said, we hope it wasn't the hotel's fault. This is a brilliant guy, and he could have come back, and he will. I believe he will come back this time. I believe he will come back fighting. I think he will come back. I think he will come back on Social Security and say, you guys wanted to privatize. I think on the tax cuts, he'll say, you're like trying to be a rabbit, pulling a rabbit out of a hat and a magician. You got to define where you're getting the 20% cuts, and don't try to claim you're not doing it.
But
tell me later.
At the same time, though, I mean, I think you're right. He probably is going to try to be aggressive. But Mitt Romney's not just playing golf today. He's in debate camp, too, and they're going to be peppering him with that Obama aggression. They're going to say, yeah, you got to be prepared for him to level all these attacks. So Mitt's going to be ready as well.
Yes, he will.
So how does that, you know what I'm saying? Like, in every expectation.
Plays out even. I don't think it plays out as a huge Obama win. I think it plays out even. I think that's good enough. The polls today show that we are 3 points up in the overall and 5 points up in the battleground states. I think if the election is held right now, we win. And Obama has to be aggressive. He has to make a joke about, Romney's making a joke about Obama being aggressive. And on the Biden smile, what he has to do is, you know, Romney smirked the entire first debate. My wife made a point about that, but nobody. We were decent enough not to make a point about it. We will now if we have to.
Yeah, we got to stop with the facial expressions thing. I mean, to reduce politics down to whether somebody's smirking or Joe Biden is throwing his arms up in the air is nuts. Let me ask you something.
Biden was having a good time and showing energy, and there's nothing wrong with that.
You seem. We're talking to Robert Weiner, Democratic strategist from Robert Weiner Associates. You seem, if I understood you correctly, Bob, to. Can I call you Bob?
Sure, that's what I am.
What's your name, right? Bob. That makes sense then.
And you're Rich and Steve.
Yeah.
Actually, he's Steve. I'm Rich.
Yeah,
he doesn't know
he's the guy with the better voice is Steve.
It's hard to see you on the radio.
Indeed, it is.
Very true.
You seem to be saying that you seem to be setting the bar for the president particularly low, and I suppose I understand why, because of his first performance. Did I understand you to say that the president just has to not lose tomorrow in order?
I didn't say not lose. Even is a lot to do, and because Romney's going to perform very well, and the president has to perform very well. If he doesn't, we're up the creek.
So this election, in your view, as a Democratic strategist, is make or break tomorrow night at Hofstra University?
Well, combining the next two debates, I think that is a fair statement. If Obama does as badly as he did in the first debate, it's over, but he won't. And I think if he performs with aggression, but a moderated aggression, he can't just be over the top. And if he does substance, if he fights back on the points and doesn't let Romney get away with murder, he let him get away with everything.
Well, but Robert, let's assume the president does much better than he did the first time. How do the Democrats counter the post-debate argument, which almost invariably will be, yes, the president's performance was better, but his policies are a failure?
Well, that's not going to be the case. I mean, we got bin Laden, the John.
No, time out.
And we're leaving Iraq and Afghanistan. It's nonsense. And the president has to make the point. He also has to make the point, guys. He has to make the point that I have a plan, not I have a wish. And the plan is he wants to use the money from Iraq, Afghanistan, and the rich tax breaks and cut the deficit and use the money for infrastructure programs to create jobs. That's a plan, and the president has stated it. But
and Mitt Romney's going to turn around and say, and that's more government spending. Look, here's the
not more government spending. It's converting government spending from the.
All right, but look, you and I, time out. You and I are not running for president. Let me just tell you, though, the problem that Obama has tomorrow night. It's a problem he can't get around. He does have to be on the defensive about his record for 4 years. As I'm listening to you,
the heck he does.
Timeout. It sounds like, if I'm listening to you, your whole thing tomorrow is to go in there and be aggressive against Mitt Romney.
No, and make the policies.
But Mitt Romney's not the incumbent, so I think Obama's got to defend his record for 4 years.
Well, Obama's got to make the point that Romney's off the wall with his sky, and all the Republicans with the sky is falling mentality. Yeah. What is happening is things are getting better, and we're reversing the crash by GM coming back to number one. We reversed the horrible reputation the U.S. had in foreign policy. We got bin Laden. We got Gaddafi, which they never seem to say. By the way, talk about Libya. That's a huge victory there, which they squirreled around, and they couldn't figure out what to do. And
well, speaking of Libya, Benghazi is going to come up tomorrow night.
Of course it will.
Okay.
And then the comeback to that is what Hillary did. She tried for $400 million more in embassy security.
Yes, guys, I want to short circuit the policy debating here, because I in my soul, I fear that it no longer matters what people say in a political context, but how they say it. So let me talk a little bit about.
I think that's an overstatement.
Well, you if I were in your business, I'd feel that way too. But let's talk about this debate and the idea of the performance. In your view, Bob, who benefits from this format, which is a town hall thing? Do either of these guys have an edge?
Absolutely. And I heard what you were saying before about Obama can't match Clinton, and I feel your pain. Yes, he can. He's actually very good at a town hall format, and I think it will come to his benefit.
I'm
Romney
shocked you would answer it that way. Let me just,
Romney
as a fellow,
is so aloof with corporations or people, and borrow from your parents.
I understand that your job is not to be objective, but let me give you.
My job is what I define it as.
Okay. Let me define my job as an opposite strategist. If I were you, I would not be going in there and building up all these expectations. Why not just say tomorrow, yeah, this might be a challenge for President Obama. We'll see how he does. I don't know what the benefit is to your president and your party to right now for you to be building all these expectations.
What did I say? He has to do an even performance.
You just said he's going to be as good as Bill Clinton and go out there and be able to feel people's pain.
In the town meeting format of empathizing with the audience, I believe that's a true statement.
So that's the bar we're going to set now. How good is he as Bill? How Bill Clinton-esque can he be at emphasizing people? And if he doesn't hit that mark, he loses then.
A he's got to.
I'm just saying, man, you're not doing him any favors.
Do well with it.
You're not doing him any favors right now by putting him all that pressure on him. That's my 2 cents.
Well, I think he put himself under this pressure.
I agree with you. He knows he screwed up, and he said he screwed up in that first debate. So you know what he thought? He thought that it would be the right thing to do to just give the American people a conversation on the issues, and thought that he didn't want to sound political. That was a huge strategic error.
Yeah, indeed. And you know what? I've heard so many armchair psychologists, Monday morning quarterbacks, try to divine what he and his advisors were thinking. And frankly, there is no, and I think you'll agree, there's absolutely no good answer for that performance.
Well, I'm on the message calls, the weekly message calls with his national campaign press secretary, his national communications coordinator, and
7,000 of your closest friends.
So I actually know what the thinking was, and their thinking was to make it a conversation and give the American people the facts, and they didn't do it well.
I understand that.
Let me ask you this,
I understand that, but if that was thinking, it's a poor excuse.
I agree.
Bob, can you stay with us through the next segment?
Sure.
All right, stay with us. We're going to take some phone calls, too, with regard to handicapping this thing tomorrow, and whether you think all the president has to do is no more harm, or whether he's got to hit it out of the ballpark. Buzz Bissinger program, Steve Martorano, Rich Cioli for Buzz, 855-839-1210, AT&T and Verizon Wireless. Robert Weiner will be with us on the other side for your questions and comments. Stick around.
Now, here's Buzz Bissinger and Steve Martorano, only on Phillies Talk Radio 1210, WPHT.
Buzz is traveling. He'll be with us tomorrow from Portland or Oregon, right? Portland, Oregon. Buzz Bissinger program, 855-839-1210, 855-839-1210, AT&T, Verizon Wireless, free call push. Pound 1210, Rich Cioli in the studio for Buzz, and on the phone, Robert Weiner from Robert Weiner Associates. Bob is a Democratic strategist, former Clinton White House spokesperson, and a believer in the president. Bob, we're going to take a call.
Before you do that, I want to get back to the question I was asking you before the break.
Sure.
Romney had a very good night last week. You agree with that?
Yeah, I do. He had a very good night, but he did it on blue smoke and mirrors and running away from what he'd ever said before.
All right. So in order for Mitt Romney to have a good night again tomorrow night, and do the blue smoke and mirrors, in your opinion, certainly not mine, the president has to do what?
Well, he's got to point out what he has said on abortion, on choice. He's got to point out what he has offered on tax cuts and how every economist, every study shows that a 20% across-the-board cut costs $4.8 trillion, and Romney won't tell you where the money's coming from and couldn't possibly get it out of mortgages, charities, or
all right, let me ask you this then. Let me ask you this. Okay. Let me ask you this. What does
Candy
the president...
Crowley's got to go after that. And
what is the president...
Republican,
all right, Bob, what does the president say? Romney had a great line, I thought, finally, thank God he said it finally, which is, Mr. President, you had 2 years to focus on the economy. You chose Obamacare, and the president didn't answer him. What do you advise the president say to that?
Healthcare is the economy. It's 1/6 of the economy. We pay twice as much as any other country on earth. It bleeds every company. It bleeds every family. I did something about it. Mitt, you did something about it in Massachusetts. Did you not want me to do something about it in the country?
8. All right, we're going to take a call or two here now for Robert Weiner on debate anticipation. 855-839-1210, 855-839-1210. And Andy in New Jersey. You're on the Buzz Bissinger program. Hi, Andy.
What do you say, guys? This guy, Weiner, hopefully the Democrats will follow his strategy. Just because he tries to use the Biden method of getting a point across by speaking louder and talking faster doesn't mean anything that he says is accurate.
Louder and faster than Zioli? I don't think so.
Well, no, I think he did. When he started off with his diatribe about he would attack the Republicans on trying to privatize Social Security, that was the first thing that was ridiculous. That's a worn out thread that they're using. If you remember correctly, and I'm sure all of you do, that was not a trying to privatize all of Social Security. It was to bring up a portion of it, and it was optional. And it certainly gave the Democrats an opportunity to bring up an alternative, but all they did is use a scare tactic and say, you can't privatize. If they remember, it was just a portion, and they brought up no alternative other than say, don't worry about it. He says,
can I respond to that?
Yeah, Andy, let's let Robert respond to that. Thanks, Andy.
You actually hit on something lot about. I was the chief of staff of the House Aging Committee under Claude Pepper, and Social Security has taken 75% of seniors away from poverty. They used to be going into garbage pails. Social Security is solvent for 20 more years, and only at that point does it then lose 25% of its budget. But what really they want to do is the privatizers want to use the Social Security Trust Fund for Wall Street giveaways. They want to put Granny at risk.
Oh, that is such a talking point. Come on. Dude, that is such a talking point. You know what? I could really respect you. I could respect you if you want to have an intellectual conversation about this, but you're just throwing out talking points on a sheet.
Tell me how I'm wrong about Social Security isn't solvent for 20 more years. Tell me how it's not.
First of all, Social Security Trust Fund is empty. You realize that, right?
Tell that to the bank that you gave the money to when they say they gave the money to other people. The government owes seniors the money for the money they put
The Social Security Trust Fund is broke, Bo. You admit that, right?
All right, guys.
By the way, I had this conversation with Newt Gingrich. Do you know that Social Security has 11 years since 1965 had reduced negative trust fund money, and yet with the positive trust fund money, it pays it. Social Security still has $2 trillion surplus in its trust fund based on the money seniors have paid in, and it's still going positive for the next 11 years. It only starts going a little negative because
then cut him off and take a call. I can't listen to him talking his spin right now. So then
spin. You call it spin when you don't like the facts.
Yeah, all right. Let's get a caller. Right. Paul, you're on with Bob Weiner. Go ahead, Paul.
Yes, I wonder why Obamacare did not address limiting the tort, which is killing us with regard to health care.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I actually am one of the few Democrats who said that we would have gotten Republican votes if we had included a little bit of tort reform in it, but it's not the dimensions that you talk about. It's 1% to 2% of healthcare costs, And what we did do, and everybody forgets this, is we gave 160 tax breaks to small businesses in the bill, and we did it all through the private sector. Remember, we didn't do single payer. Normally, with the Civil Rights Act, with Social Security, with those kinds of compromises.
And how about the billions of dollars in tax increases you're going to do? Look, either time out. How about the billions of dollars in tax increases that Obamacare adds to people? How about that?
You are paying a little bit more.
A little bit more, right?
Would be paid by
little
you
bit
for
more.
Emergency care for the people that didn't have.
Okay,
insurance
look, if
before.
you want to do a policy, you're the wrong guy. If you want to talk strategy, you're the right guy. So strategy. Why don't you tell us a strategy of what the president has to do tomorrow night? Because
all right, we've covered that and recovered it, and we're running out of time.
I don't think
real quick, Robert.
That the bill costs. What Obamacare has done is stop the rising costs far more.
Oh, please, give me a break. It has not stopped anything. People are paying more this year than they were last year. That's a load of crap.
Less than they would have.
That is a load of crap.
Well, hey, Robert, thanks for joining us.
Okay.
We don't get this kind of.
He's good though. I'll give you that, Robert. You're good.
How could we tell?
Drink Kool-Aid, but.
Well, I don't take guff, and I hope the president doesn't either.
All right.